This is the finals. So I got to decide what I want to do about this hand. I got a 1 drop, a 2 drop, a 3 drop, a 4 drop, so there's no way I'm getting rid of that. You can probably tell I've been going on the whiskey. Ginger ale, ginger beer, which goes really nice with, whatchamacallit, gin, and I squished a lemon in there. No, the whole thing was a pretty pleasant experience. Uh, I like to drink while I'm drafting, because sometimes the other players, if you win your games in like a few minutes, oh, here's that red queen ramp that I was expecting. Brilliant. Um, if you win your games like relatively quickly, you have a lot of time sometimes before the next person gets involved. So you've got to entertain yourself. And I found that drinking is the way to do that. So here, it's tempting to play the 2-2 haste and like swing, 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 but it makes more sense. That guy is a real threat, so I'm gonna pass that because I'm not gonna do the haste because what I want to do is I want to play the basher this turn. I'm hoping he'll block, but obviously he never will unless he's a terrible player or unless he has something sneaky in his hands. I'm going to play the Basher this turn. The next turn I can play the Ripper and the Flame Hand. Although the other option is that I play the Flame Hand this turn, and then next turn I play the Basher, the Ripper, but then I don't have enough resources to do what I want to it. So I just play the Basher. Cool. I hope he attacks here because if he attacks and I drop the Ripper, then I'm swinging for 5 next turn, which would be essentially... Ooh, he's bringing out the heat. So Yancey is a huge bomb. So if he can clear my board, he gets a Murdertron, which just sort of wins the game. So now I need to play around Yancey. I'm wondering currently how much Yancey had to do with his previous wins. I don't really know. What can I do at this point? I can swing for 3 if I drop the Ripper and attack with everything, but that leaves me vulnerable to a removal. Although if he does a removal, then he can't do Yancey. So that's actually quite interesting. It'd be really nice if... I'm trying to think if there's a way that I can set this up so that he makes a fool of himself. Like, I would love to force him to attack. And since I have the Mesa Lookout, it should be possible, but I don't really see a way to do it right now. I've got a lot of fun tricks, but just kind of not the right ones, unfortunately. 'Cause I'm definitely going to need to remove Yancey. That much is clear. So if I attack with both guys right now, I have a 2-3 and a 1-1. I can drop the Mesa Lookout to save one of them. I guess if he does... It's probably worth attacking and then dropping the Mesa Lookout, although I do value the idea. I'll probably kill one of his things, and it'll probably psych him out, and I don't think I'll lose anything off of it. He may well just let this damage through, which is what he did, because he's like scared of the results, which is understandable. And so now this is kind of cool, because I've now represented a combat trick, which means he's scared. Of course, he's got the monster on the board, so ultimately I should be scared. He could drop... What's that 4-cost red card? That means land stuff can't defend and it does 1 damage to everything. Shattering Pulse, or who even knows. He's attacking with Yancey. This is interesting. So here he may well be packing the 2-1 first strike, and what he's looking to do is get me to double block, so he has to burn it. And I kind of am tempted to double block just to force him to burn it, but that would put him at 4, which gets me a 2 for 0, which really isn't ideal. So my other option is to chump block, but chump blocking is not great. What I need to do is I need to chump block here. Fine, he gets to save his combat trick. He's representing a combat trick hard here. So I'm pretty sure he's got the red, or he might have the green. He could have either of them, either +2/+2 or +2/+0 first strike. Probably the first strike, otherwise he wouldn't have attacked into that. So if he doesn't have that and he's representing it, he's the greatest player I've ever seen. That's a seriously big move, and I would really respect that. But what can you do? Fuck it. All right. So the problem with this Boomsmith, this is the issue I have. Like, he just doesn't do enough for you. It's super annoying. You really want him to do some work, but he just doesn't. He's so lazy. So he's got 4 resource. I would love to attack with all 3 and Boomsmith, but the problem is he may be packing Scorch. And Scorch would allow him to remove my Boomsmith and then swing in with Yancey and still have the resources left to create his Murdertron. And unfortunately, I don't have an Etherealize, so I need to be a little bit more conservative than that. What I could do is attack Boom Boom, right? So 2 of those. Leave him uninvolved. That would work, actually. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pass that priority. First main phase. I'm going to attack with 2. And I haven't fully decided whether I'm going to drop the Mesa Lookout and the Bright Moon Brave, or whether I'm going to drop the Boomsmith and remove a threat. It depends a little bit on what he does, but I'd be happy to trade this guy for either of those. And if he decides to double block, obviously that would be brilliant for me, because I would love to kill both of them. And now I wonder if my internet's dropped, so I will go check a website. Imgur? Anything? Yeah, that's loading. Alright, he's just thinking. So I guess he may have a trick. He could have, gosh, what could he even have here? He could have the 3/2, or sorry, the 3 damage red, the 2 red threshold, whatever that's called, pitchforky one. I'm not crazy about his move though, I got to admit. What's he letting me do? Yeah, it makes sense that. Sorry, I'm just juggling so many freaking windows. What I want to do here is I want to attack and attack. I want to attack with the 3rd one as well, because the Mesa Lookout's actually quite robust once he attacks. The problem with that is this guy's highly chump blockable, so I'm just going to attack with those 2. Dun dun dun. I got 4 left, so the Mesa Lookout and the Bright Moon Brave. I've noticed, I played Yancey in a match or 2. He's really strong in the node. I always take him, obviously. He's a 2/3 for 3. He's only got 1 colored shard, and he forces your opponent to completely play around him, as I'm currently doing. So, obviously, he's a first pick. But I found he's not as strong as I wanted, because the way you really want to use him is in a sneaky fashion, where you can, I'm thrilled to see that, because this was the threat I was worried about, where he shifts this onto Yancey and then makes Yancey unblockable. As this stands, he's just chump blocking, and that's awesome. Let's see, he may still, yeah, there's the lunge, so not totally surprised. That's going to make him a 4-something, cool. It's really important for me to kill this guy, and I'm happy to take the opportunity to do so, because he has the ability to make Yancey unblockable, assuming that he gets the right other cards. I think he made a mistake there. I think he got greedy, and I'm going to probably win the game as a result. But again, I'm not trying to tell people how to play. I'm just trying to do my stuff. I've now got my first strike ability, and obviously I have the most troops. He's the best person to put it onto, but I don't like leaving a 2 toughness. Let me think, does red have... Red does have some good 2 toughness removal. They've got that, whatever the basic action is, that does 2, or if you've got a big critter, it does 5. So it's better for me to avoid putting my buff onto something that will leave with 2 toughness, and instead I'll put it onto the make it 3 toughness. It's just a little bit trickier to remove that way. I can always shift that ability over to him if I want to make be scary. A Gigantosaur into the hand. So the Gigantosaur costs 7, but I got to be aware there's probably a 7/7 coming at some point. So, I'll just stay on guard about that one. A basic precaution. What I would love to see here, ooh, the Basher. The Basher's really interesting with this many troops. I kind of want to kill that because I don't want the 7/7 to come out next turn when I don't have an answer for it, and he may well draw a shard, which will make that possible, because I really don't have a good way to deal with it. So I probably have to Boomsmith the Soloist, because I don't want the Soloist to be able to attack. What I would have loved to have been able to do is to Flamehand Invoker the Mesa Lookout and start attacking in like an unblockable fashion. But I can't, sadly. Something else I could do is I could do a sneaky sack of the the Basher, where I attack with these 3. That might actually be too good for him to turn down. Let me try that. So I'm going to pass this priority, and then I'm going to attack with 1, 2, 3. He's going to be super confused by what I'm doing right now. Hopefully he thinks I'm drunk, but obviously I haven't communicated that I've been drinking to him. What I'm looking to do is, like, if he blocks with the Yancey, I can Boomsmith it, which would be great. If he blocks there, I can Boomsmith it, which would be great. Perfect. So I now get my choice of which one I want to kill, because he's out of resources. Probably here I'm going to kill Yancey just because he's stressing me out. Although getting rid of the 3/5 is also super duper appealing. Let me think through this. For my deck, like, Yancey isn't actually that scary. The 3/5 is kind of more scary because he can block all my shit. So as much as it pains me to do it, I got to ignore Yancey. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, I played him in a couple drafts, and he just wasn't the threat that I expected him to be. I thought he would be dominating and just winning game after game after game, but as it was, he was kind of like me. Now, you could argue, so this is an okay question, like, was it worth me trading the Basher and the Brave? Yeah, when this enters play, create a wild shard, cool. It would have been really nice if I'd killed that last turn, because then that would have prevented him from getting a shard, which would have really slowed down his... oh, he had another elf, so that's fine. He's definitely got the advantage in this game. Like, we're in the finals. I'm against a strong deck. What can you do? Okay, a Diamond Shard, a Basher, fine. So probably I need to shift this onto him. I need to drop my Diamond Shard. And now at this point I can pump by 4, so I can buff him up to a 7 whatever first Swift Strike. So 7. Is there something they could position that would kill it? I do 1. No, I'd probably do 1, 3, and 3, and only 1 gets through. So actually they can't kill it no matter what they do, so I may as well swing with it. And is there anything else I want to swing with? No, it's more important to leave blockers to make sure Yancey doesn't get through. This is actually quite a fun game for the finals. I'm pleased with the way this is going. So he's dropping in a 2/1 on first strike. I'm quite happy to remove that. What I'm hoping to do is Obviously, he has 7 resource next turn because he drops his Wild Shard or he attacks with the Soloist, and then he gets his Gigantosaur, which is a 7/7. And at that point, I have to go on the defensive because it's possible for me to buff this to a 7/3 or whatever, or actually much bigger than that, like a very large first striker. And like, obviously, well, something he probably isn't expecting is for me to remain on the aggressive. He's out of resource here, and he's trying to remove chump blockers, which I think is quite a smart play. I'm going to get rid of Yancey. He's got no resource, and he's got no hand, so there's nothing he can do to stop it. The other one I'm quite happy to let through. And if he's playing the way I think he's playing, what he's doing is really smart right now. He's realized that Yancey's not going to get through. So he's trading Yancey for 2 chump blockers who would basically delay his Gigantosaur by 2 turns. And that's really, 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 really smart. Because he wants to drag this into the end game, whereas I want to win. If I hold back here as a blocker, let me think this through. Wow, I only have 1 red resource, 1 red shard. That's really painful. So probably if I attack, he has to block because the threat of the damage he would take otherwise is too high. And he's top decking, and I'm going to drop another blocker, so I'm totally happy with that. And I'm going to try to race him on life. Right, so he blocks, I take out his blocker, I don't need to bother pumping, that's all fine. Pass the priority off, drop another chump blocker. 1/4, very happy with it, good. He may draw a strong removal, but I've got 20 life. So even if he destroys... Ooh, that was a good pull for him. That was really good. That thing's swift and everything. So probably what I'm doing here is blocking there and praying that I draw into a red shard so that next turn I can do a sneaky removal of the 4/4. Take 7 and move. Oh, that's actually really good as well. Interesting. So here, I'm trying to think whether I want to play defensive or offensive. And with him at 14, and with the threat I offer with being able to pump this guy, I really want to play offensively. So I'm probably going to pass the priority here. I'm probably going to attack. He's probably going to chump block with his 2/3. Then I'm going to etherealize his 7/7. And I'm going to let his 4/4 hit me because I need to draw into a red shard so that I can block with my basher and skewer him to essentially win the game. This is going to really mess with his plans. And now it kind of comes down to like, he's got 1 more chump block in the spirit. He's got the 4/4. I've got a chump block. We could argue we're racing. Drew another chump blocker. Like, what he's hoping for in his deck right now is just to keep drawing the chump blockers. Ultimately, I could go on to... Ooh, interesting choice. So if I draw... What does that mean? I'm going to let that damage through. That's only 5, and I've got 16. This is a really interesting game. I love playing against aggressive opponents. Too many people, they get into a tough situation, and they get cowed or whatever. They get browbeat into just sitting on the defensive and taking what's given to them. That's always a mistake, honestly. Just don't do it. Now, what have I got here? This is starting to get tricky. So I'm now at 11. I still don't have my red shard. If he swings again, he swings for 5. That brings me down to 6. It really gets me low. But I kind of have the life, so I think I gotta keep going on the aggressive. I don't want to get into a situation where he has like too many chump blockers for me to win. And unless he gets a lucky top deck, which I'm like, at some point you have to accept the math, right? Like there's various ways I can win this, but I feel like it's more in my favor to stay aggressive than it is in my favor to like start blocking. Probably after my next turn, if I don't draw a red shard, and he's still getting the chump blockers. So probably next turn I have to start blocking because, gosh, 5 and I'm an 11. So I'm going to let that one through because I'm still hopeful that I'll draw into my red shard and I can play an amazing coup d'etat. Red shard? Yeah, that's a red shard. All right. So that lets me block and skewer, which is really interesting. And I'm pretty sure then I win the game. We'll have to see. He chump blocks. He's now thinking I've got like a real one-track mind. Make sure I buff that by 1, 2. I gotta make sure I do this the right amount. Deal combat damage. I only needed to do it by 1. I did it by 2. You could argue that was sloppy, but I don't think it's signaling anything. He's got no cards in hand. It's like not like he can pull any tricks, and hopefully he just thinks I misclicked and that ultimately he's in the right. It would have been amazing if I had one more resource, because then I could give him +1+. No, actually I don't have enough troops. Oh well. I don't know what's going on here now. He's doing some deep thinking. Maybe he hadn't noticed that that guy had the Inspire power. Anyway. Maybe my internet's dead. Whoops. Let me check the old internet. Imgur, save the day. Imgur? Do we still have it? Uh-oh. If my internet's dead, that would be really problematic at this point. And it would be boring for you guys to watch. Oh no, we still got it. Alright. He's just thinking then, I guess. You can see he's way ahead in time. He's been playing much faster than I have, because I guess I've been chatting to you. So, I mean, that means he's got time to spend. Even if he spends 5 minutes thinking through, well, he actually doesn't have a move here, so I'm not sure what he's thinking about. Maybe he's just contemplating the universe. He's watching some Neil deGrasse Tyson, learning about Pluto or whatever. Yeah, anyway, we'll keep on keeping on. I feel like I'm like in a pretty confident spot for this, because the skewer is a quick action. Meh. Skewer. They should have called that Pitchfork Time, or Pitchfork Town, or Orky Bunny Diplomatic Confrontation. Prepare a mixture of oil, garlic, rosemary, coriander, and peppercorns. That sounds really good. Rub the mixture on both sides of the shin hair, cover, and roast until tender. It's not a bad idea, to be honest. Whoops, I shouldn't have moved that because I got my recording zone. Maybe I'll just cut out this whole section of the video while this guy's like having his great debate about what he should do. I'll bring up Imgur for you guys, and we can look at some funny pictures. What we got here? Here's a happy cannonball floating in a pool of mercury. I'm assuming you guys have seen this GIF before. Oh, this is one of my favorite subreddits. It's Real Life Doodles. They draw these little pictures onto things. That's some quality. Here we got some information about knots. What is that? The bowline. I'd agree with this. I've always found the diagrams of the bowline to be a little bit confusing, but it is a very useful knot. What they, I guess the description sort of tells you, but if you do this, right, so you make a loop, the thing we used to have is you make a bunny hole, then the bunny rabbit comes out of the hole, he goes around the tree, and he goes back in the hole. You just got to make sure you tie your loop in the right direction, but you get used to that over time. And what's cool about it is that once you cinch it, you pull this little thread down here, and you cinch it tight. You end up with this loop. The loop doesn't tighten, so we were taught it in that you were meant to, if you were trying to like drag someone up from a cliff that they'd fallen down. Not that that's ever happened to me in my life, but the idea is that you can build a loop for them with the bowline, and then when you're pulling them up, like most knots, like they cinch over time, they get tighter and tighter. So you're lifting someone up by the torso or whatever, and it strangles them, whereas the bowline doesn't. And then when you want to untie it, you just click up on that little. I was disconnected. All right, let me panic here now. CANO. Oh, my keyboard's not working. Quit. Hex.